just incredibly refreshing way to eat a beer, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been asked more than once for a spoon.
Johnny, what is Pastry Stout?
He's straight in there. Pastry Stout's kind of what you want it to be, I guess, because it's basically saying, yeah, this was beer at some point,
Yeah.
but now it's mostly something else.
Right, so it's like we're talking adjuncts, fun, just fun, bags of fun.
Bags that you could literally add bags of fun probably and put that on the label and get away with it. Yeah.
Amazing.
So the Pastry Stout is part of this kind of pastry movement which we've seen in craft beer and which breweries are playing on nostalgia,
Yes.
on our emotions, playing with diabetes, all these things to make sure that we have fun in the craft beer industry. But basically it's an imperial stout, and if you want to know what that is, we've got a video up here where basically so many adjuncts, so many untraditional beer ingredients have been added
Yes.
that it's become closer to cake batter than it has to original beer.
Right, so it still has all the ingredients you'd expect in a normal beer. Like the grain, water, obviously. There's some water in it,
water.
right?
Yeah.
A little bit of water. Yeast is still in it,
There's
obviously.
still very much yeast.
And some hops, maybe not as many hops as you might expect.
Not a lot of hops going
Right.
on, but that leaves space then for you to add. You know, it could be coffee, it could be
Yeah.
chocolate, it could be nuts, it could be, but basically anything that you think would be delicious within that kind of chocolatey, coffee, toffee, caramel kind of vibe of a modern
Yes.
imperial stout. You could throw all of that in, and we have seen absolutely wild stuff. We've even seen money and pizza thrown in to a pastry stout.
So we're talking huge, rich in every sense of the word,
Yeah.
ingredients and flavours going on. It's not about the hop sort of character and bitterness and things like that. This is on the side of sweetness mostly, right?
Absolutely.
And kind of like indulgence, decadence, wild style.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the sound of this. It sounds incredible, but who should we blame for the pastry stout?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of potential criminals when it comes to the crimes of pastry stout.
Fun-loving criminals, eh?
Fun-loving criminals, yeah. So one of them would be the good people over at Cigar City.
Yes.
We've actually been there on
We
our
have.
Florida adventure.
Brief visit.
But we didn't drink any pastry stout while we were there. But their Hunapoo Day was potentially the start of pastry stouts. Or it could be related to Scandinavia, where these beers have really, really taken off with the likes of Michele, Lervig, and obviously the people in front of us right now, which is Omnipollo.
Mate, I think we need to go to the source, the homeland, the expert, the majestic beer nerd that is Henok from Omnipollo.
Hello, Biggies, and welcome to the Church of Omnipollo.
Welcome to the church.
So today we're going to be talking about pastry stout, some of its origins, some of its definitions, with one of the greatest producers of pastry stout in the world.
Ah, come on.
Both quality and quantity, it would seem, yeah. So I don't think we should beat about the bush. Should we get a beer in the glass,
I think we should.
and then we can talk about it? Are you going to start not with an Omnipollo beer, right?
I'm not, actually. Since we're talking about pastry stouts, we're going to start with an inspirational beer, kind of the beer that kicked it off for me back in 2005, 2006 isn't the first time I had this beer. This is the much later version, but it's from a Swedish brewery called Närke. It has this A with 2 dots over it, so it's pronounced Närke. It was released the first time in 2004, and it just shot up and became kind of the #1 ranked beer in the world, or rate beer. And we had pretty easy access to it then, and then it just got really hard to get it, and it became really expensive. And now I've actually traded for this bottle, so we're going to be drinking this
Very privileged.
together. This is a rum barrel aged version, actually, so I guess even rarer than the non-barrel aged.
So one of the definitions of pastry stout should be hard to get hold of, possibly traded for it.
That's right. Rarity tastes better.
So tell me about this beer and the flavours and what makes it a pastry stout or makes a pastry stout generally.
I guess, this is a pretty traditional imperial stout in one way, or imperial porter as they describe it, but it does have a wild flower honey that I think comes through very clearly in this beer. It kind of like gives it this super floral touch, which I think is part of the reason why it became wildly popular. It's like different, it's traditional, but it's different. It's not off-putting, it's beautiful and very balanced, but still thick and rich. I mean, this was a very, very extreme beer in 2004. We have a lot of, more extreme beers now, but it brings back great memories drinking this.
It's still an extremely sweet stout. So even though it's not going to be sort of along the lines of something we're about to try, in terms of traditional imperial stout, they wouldn't traditionally be this sweet or this floral or have that kind of that wild floral kind of character to these imperial stouts. They'd have been much drier and roastier.
Yeah, like I have a sweet tooth. I wanted to become a pastry chef when I was younger, and so there was this natural inclination to brew dark beers that kind of had inspiration from the pastry world, if you will. And these flavors just go very well together. Usually whatever works in chocolate works in these type of beers. So it's like rather than kind of straying away from that and making more savory things out of it, it just became this pastry thing for me personally. Wow. As long as you do it foundationally great, like the base beer needs to be the exact same level or higher than any other craft, and then choosing your adjuncts very carefully and like being very mindful of, I don't see a difference between that and, Michelin star kitchen in any part of the world.
Putting whatever they want in their cheesecake or whatever it is, yeah.
It's a gastronomical approach to brewing, which you don't see in a lot of other styles, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be, that's a fair descriptor.
So, talking about the ingredients, choosing ingredients carefully, we can maybe move on to the next beer, which is the one that you're currently flushing it with ground almonds.
We are, as we speak.
Yeah.
And this is a collaboration with Angry Chair out of Tampa, Florida. And it's a beer we brewed in Tampa with Angry Chair. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. So having the church and being able to do this in Europe feels really special. And it's a thick 24 Play-Doh finisher, as we talked about earlier, imperial stout with a bunch of almonds and coffee going into it, and some vanilla. So it's like a marzipan coffee situation going on here. The coffee we use for our stouts, for the most part, for example, in this beer, I believe, that we'll try after this, I went to the South Sudanese border where one of the greatest coffee growers in the world has a coffee farm called Geisha Village, and picked the beans myself. So it's like kind of going for coffee selection as opposed to hop selection to add into this beer, or a similar beer, and it really pays off, in a huge way. We made a bunch of beers for a festival a couple of months ago, and it was just incredible drinking those beers. Like every single one of them. Simply because it had that coffee in it. Beautiful base ingredient.
It's amazing to think about, we're all aware of hop selections and breweries that get the best hop selections and stuff, but what a thing to be, selecting your adjuncts on a similar level to that. I think it's amazing.
Well, it smells unreal.
It's incredible.
Really nutty, biscuity, caramelly, chocolatey. It's one of those beers I just want this under my nose all day. If I can just walk around like this.
Just want it in my mouth all day, Johnny.
All that, okay.
It's incredible.
And so this hasn't had you've sort of double dry almond and...
Yeah, so this is the single almonded version. And we're adding another round.
This is the single still?
Yeah, this is single still. And then we're adding coffee, but for a much shorter period of time as a third round of adjuncting. Yeah. So this does have half of the vanilla. So it's so more vanilla going in, more almonds.
So making pastry stouts is a really long process, I guess. You've got the pretty long fermentation time, conditioning time, and then adding the adjuncts and having them extract over a certain period, and then...
Yeah, I mean, it's stouts and lagers that are taking us the longest time, yeah.
Have you still got all of your own teeth, Henok?
I brush morning and
after every beer.
Yeah.
What we haven't done is the thing that Omnipollo, certainly online, is most famous for, which is the slushy pour. Can you tell me where the slushy version, you do it with your sours as well and your imperial stouts, where that came from?
Yeah, so 7 years ago, we opened our first tap room downtown, the one we visited yesterday, and Carl sent me a picture. He was in Tokyo like a month or two prior to that, of a lager beer with this soft serve swirl on it. And I think it was around the time when we just made the ice cream series with Buxton, and we were going to serve it at the bar, and we wanted to do something really special for that. And so we started experimenting with what's essentially a slushy machine. I vividly remember having a soft serve machine right next to a slushy machine, trying to see which one it was that was going to create this magic, and it turned out the slushy machine was the way to go.
What a day at work that would have been.
It was pretty cool. I remember sending that picture around to everybody, kind of like, whoa, let's do this. And it's been a wild ride. Like, I mean, we bring it everywhere, and what I really love about it is we're not adding anything to the beer except playing around with the texture, and it's really more suitable, I think, for sweeter, bigger, more complex beers than a light lager. In this case, we've tried it with that too, and it has a function because when it's done on a lager, it's usually kind of a sports arena setting where you're supposed to walk back to your seat and still have your beer cold. So it's like a functional thing. Okay. But I think it's an aesthetic that really works with craft beer.
Yep.
So the amazing thing about it for me is the texture.
The guys that work our bars are usually experts at this. Like, they know exactly which beers work really well in terms of soft serve. My general thesis is that the higher the sugar content, the better, because it like kind of doesn't over freeze and becomes crystallized and hard and chewy in the same way. It just becomes this very soft foam. But you could probably overdo it. I mean, trying to slushy this beer would probably not work because the sugar content is so high, it just would never freeze. So somewhere in the middle, probably like 16 Play-Doh like base beer is great for a slushy.
Well, I think all that's left to do is try some soft serve, right?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So here we have it, the famous slushy pour of an imperial stout. It's ice cream meets beer, which are two of human's greatest inventions.
Oh, wow.
So you can't argue
I couldn't agree more.
So what's this beer?
So this is a hazelnut coffee vanilla imperial stout. We call it in plenty.
God, so it's iced coffee vibes too. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, it definitely has the iced coffee vibes. Yeah. Cheers.
Big coffee hit, but sweetness to back it up. I love that.
Just an incredibly refreshing way to eat a beer, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been asked more than once for a spoon when we've served this stuff.
So, Johnny, one last question for you. What's this about? Why is this here?
Yeah, we should probably address the hydrometer in the room. This is here because we actually just brewed a pastry stout with Henok himself.
Come on!
A collaboration with Omnipollo, none other. And we have some incredibly unusual and exciting adjuncts that are going in. We filmed that today, which is why we look sweaty and tired, because making these beers is not easy, and I have newfound respect for all the people that do. So check that out in a couple of weeks and see the incredible adjuncts that we've added to that beer.
Honey, give it one more chance. Honey, give it one more chance. Honey, give it one more chance.